Charles has highlighted the lack of vocational education available, describing it as a great tragedy, as not everyone is academic. The comments were made before he became monarch and reflected the efforts of his charity, the Prince's Trust, at cultivating apprenticeships for young people. Now, these comments, the latest comments, come as there has been an effort to expand vocational education in recent years, with the government expanding the scheme and introducing new T-levels for training. Well, with me now to discuss this is Tom Richmond, founder and director of the APPRENTICESHIPS think tank. Tom, thank you for your time. Is King Charles right to call for more vocational education? Is the government not doing enough, frankly?
It's not just this government that hasn't been doing enough. It's previous governments going back at least 10 years, if not more, which have prioritised academic education over pretty much everything else. We've seen a huge expansion in young people going to university. Around 40% of 18-year-olds now go straight into higher education after leaving school or college. And if that's right for them, that's great. But the problem is, over the last 10 years, apprenticeship opportunities have collapsed for young people. There used to be about 300,000 young people doing an apprenticeship each year. If you look back 10 years, last year, it was about 160,000. So I think it's really important young people get a choice. But at the moment, university is quickly becoming the default choice rather than giving young people a choice for great apprenticeship instead.
Well, exactly, Tom. So how do we say to a 16-year-old kid, you're not a thicko if you don't go to university? Because that's the narrative that's now being created, because so many kids are, as you say, it is the norm to go off to university, when actually some people would be better suited to highly paid, dare I say, apprenticeships and other vocational forms of education.
Yeah, and this goes back to Tony Blair's rather famous target of 50% of young people going into higher education, which I think was well-meaning. I don't think he meant it as a bad thing around apprenticeships and vocational education. But the problem is that government has started to put all its money into sending kids off to university. And we know now, of course, that young people can easily leave a university degree £50,000 to £60,000 in debt. And a lot of them are very unlikely to ever pay back that debt, which means that future taxpayers have to pay back that debt instead. So it's not just about giving students a good choice of a university or an apprenticeship after they leave. It's really important for taxpayers, not just current future taxpayers, but future taxpayers as well, that they get a good deal. And this is why I'm worried that the government's got the balance wrong for a long time. There is some cause for optimism. As you may have seen, the new education secretary is Gillian Keegan, who is herself a former apprentice. That hasn't happened for a long time, and I'm really pleased to see it, but it might not solve the problem all by itself.
Yeah, just briefly, if you would, I'm coming to the end of the programme. Do you actually think in this post-Brexit moment, when we're, experiencing labour shortages in certain markets, that actually this will alleviate that by bringing more young people, training them up, upskilling them?
You would have thought it's the perfect opportunity, wouldn't you, over the last 4 or 5 years since the Brexit vote, to get these skill shortages solved by training more and more apprentices all over the country at different levels. And that, to me, makes it even sadder. This government still hasn't focused enough on those apprenticeships. They can invest more in apprenticeships whenever they want to. They've got to get onto it sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Tom Richmond there, founder and director of the APPRENTICESHIPS think tank. I thank you very much for your time.